Alright folks, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Aostar AG02, which is an 800 watt external graphics dock. An external graphics dock is basically an PCI dock that allows you to play your games with an external GPU connected via Thunderbolt or Oculink. So this has two ports. This uses the ASMP64D chipset, so you should get a full 40 GB with the USB 4, and it does have an Oculink port as well, so you should get 64 gigs for that, around 63 I think when you're playing games. This is an RTX 5080 that I've attached on it. The dock itself is very small, as you can see over here. I'm just going to turn it a little bit. It has a tiny power supply unit over here, and it has three cables, 3 pins, because it's 800 watts. So let me just turn it around. It has 3 slots over here. 1, 2, 3. 3 slots, so you can connect your 12H PVR cable or a 3-slot GPU. In this case, the 5080 uses around 600 watts, so it does need 3 pins, even though when you're actually going to be using this on something like the Onexplayer X1, it's only going to use about 200 watts or maybe even less. This solution with a graphics dock is not very ideal. Streaming is much better. I'll do a test later with streaming from my mini PC with the card attached inside the PC, I mean. But if you want something portable, this is great. It's very small. This you might not be able to tell in the video, but this dock is pretty small. So it does come with 2 cables. It comes with an Oculink cable, a tiny one. I think Oculink cables have to be tiny. It does come with a tiny, I think, a 1.5 meter USB 4 cable. I have a much longer cable. USB 4 cables you can use up to 6 feet as long as they're active. You don't really lose anything. I think it's only if you're using something like an external monitor or something, you should lose some kind of bandwidth, even though I've never seen it in real life. So you can use a long USB 4 cable, but you get less bandwidth. You're limited by bandwidth, meaning the amount of data that can go through on a single cable, because it's going to supply power and it's going to pass through data. So this does use a newer chipset, as I told you before, which transfers 40 gigs, and it also releases 100 watts power for your external device. So we're going to test it out with the Onexplayer X1 AI370 AMD. I've already got everything installed. It's a relatively painless process. So the first game we're going to try is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I've connected my graphic dock to the Onexplayer, the USB 4 cable, and let's just get into the game. I'm going to turn on this one has a native, so this does have a native mode where it shows you the frame rate. I don't think you can see it up top yet, but you'll see it. So first I'm going to show you how this works on my preset, which is a mix of medium. The object quality is at medium, and let me just try to zoom in here a bit. Oh, there we go. So the object quality is medium, the particles lighting is at medium, and the highest setting is for the lighting, which is experimental. Global illumination is experimental, post-processing is experimental, shader quality is experimental, shadows medium, textures medium, volumetric detail experimental, character detail medium, and yeah. So most of the things that are data heavy are medium, but all the lighting calculation, because you're limited by this cable, you don't want excessive data going through this cable, and textures are like a huge crush on this cable. So textures, I keep it medium. So first I'm going to play it this way and show you how good it runs or bad it runs, and then we're going to go with presets. So I'm in a relatively open area. I wonder if I can use a keyboard to assess this. I try to zoom out a little bit. The fans aren't running yet because the GPU is pretty cool. There's air conditioning going on, so there's really no reason for the fans to be spinning. Alright, so there's a bunch of NPCs here. Let me go a little bit towards the day. Oh, there we go, the fan starts spinning. So this is a relatively open area. This is one of the pit. I am getting 120 frames per second right now. Let me zoom it in for you. So in Kuttenberg, when you go into the city, you might notice a little bit of a dip, but for an external graphics dock like a 5080, 120 frames on a mix and the highest experimental preset for Kingdom Come is really, really good. This is a shadow heavy area. There's a lot of lighting going on. I wonder if I could just, okay, yeah, I can just use the keyboard. All right. Now in the same area, we're going to do the preset. So we're going to go down to, all right. So there's no resolution scaling going on or anything like that. So now we're going to go for a preset. I am running this at 920 by 1200. You don't want to go too high with the resolution. Again, data crunch. If there's a lot of data passing, you're going to kill your frame rate with the eGPU. It's not like streaming. So let's go to the experimental. The experimental being the highest preset for Kingdom Come. And confirm. There we go. Oops. All right, so I don't know if you can see it over there. The drop we are at now is at around 70 frames, 60 frames. We're averaging around 68. The lowest is, well, 70, 68. But that is going to drop the more you go around. So it's going down to 65, 66. So you can see when you actually put textures to really high and the data crunch is a lot, it's going to definitely tax your game. But this is still pretty respectable for an eGPU dock running at USB 4 at around 40 GB bandwidth. It's not as good as streaming, because this can game stream at 120 FPS with MFG. So we're getting 80, 90 now. I don't know if you can see it. Well, if you look at the ground, you might get a higher frame rate. All right, so a bit of a dip there. That is going to happen. Sometimes you're going to get like a bad dip when you are using this much data on a USB 4 cable. And now we're going to just go to the medium preset. So here we go. We are at medium. So at a medium, you easily hit about 100 frames. And if you use DLSS and you use the FrameGen mod, you should get a lot more. But this is very, very good for an eGPU dock. Also, I don't think you should take this game as like a prime example, because this game is very well optimized. It's running on the Crytek engine. So you're obviously going to fare a lot better with this game. And in case you want to see the performance stats even better, this does have, I wonder if I can customize it. Let's, vertical view. All right. That's a pretty cool feature that this thing has. All right, so you can get a better idea of, let me just turn it a little bit down. Yeah. So you get an idea of what's what over there. 107 FPS. So medium doing pretty well. Now I'm going to go into a game which is very, very buggy, and you can see how an eGPU dock works with that. Alright, so now we're in a very, very buggy game, which is Final Fantasy 16. This game is a nightmare because there are parts of this game that run really poorly with eGPUs and even GPUs in general, but it's especially taxing on eGPUs for some reason. So I'm going to go into one of the end game areas. Now, it's not a spoiler, it's just a town. The reason I'm going to go there is because this area is very, very buggy. This is the place where you get the most amount of frame dips. So let me just go into, let's see, the settings. So we're going to do a preset over here and put it to ultra. And the resolution is the same. It's 1920 by 1200. There's no frame generation going on. Let me see, make sure. Sorry. Let me make sure the resolution is correct. All right, so we're in an ultra preset, and let me just check. So by default, DLSS 3 is turned on the ultra preset, so I'm going to leave that on. And let's take a look at what we're getting over here. So you can see it's around 45 FPS, which is crazy, but I'm going to take you to the town, and that's important because that's the place that really messes up this game. I enjoyed this game for the most part, but there are times I played this at like 2 frames or 10 frames a second. It was a complete mess. So this is the town that gives you the most amount of problems, and now you can see that we're only getting 46 frames here. This is at the highest preset, 1920 by 1200 on the RTX 5080, and you can't expect much better even with the 890M that this thing has. So if you're going to use an eGPU for this game, it's probably a no-go. So if you go into, let's say we go to medium, and it doesn't fare any better. We're still at 41, so let's just go to low. So there's something wrong with this, this is just how it is. It's going to stay around here. In fact, it's going lower. If we try to modify some of the settings, like let's turn this stuff off and everything at low. Nope. You can do a restart, but this area, you can't do anything about it. This is just how it runs. Average around 40 frames, maybe less. I have tried everything with this game, so it's just how it is. And if you use let's say medium, and let's use frame gen, you can get sort of like a boost. So you're getting 90 frames with frame gen, and the 5080 does have multi-frame gen tech, but you need to override it with DLSS 4. So that's good, but I mean, if you really want to play with frame gen, yeah, it's good. You can run this with frame gen. There is no noticeable lag because, as you can see, the frame time is around 12 ms, but I don't know if that's correct because this is using HW info. But yeah, frame gen is good for eGPUs. It does work well. You're getting 102 frames per second. This is on the high preset, so it is playable if you use frame gen, which is something the 5080 has. So let's take a look at another game. So this is Starfield, and the graphics that we're running at, let's go over here. So we're running at ultra. Let me just make sure the preset is correct. So we're running at ultra, default, everything. By default it uses FSR, so we're going to go with default first. Again, the same resolution, which is 1920 by 1200. And we're getting around 44, 50. This is in a very heavy area. This is Jameson, so one of the heaviest areas in the game. So you might say that the eGPU is not as impressive for a 5080 because of the data crunch. An external monitor might give you a few frames. The Oculink adapter, despite what people tell you, even with 63 gigs, the difference is around 4 or 5 frames at most. So I don't think an Oculink cable is worth it, unless you're streaming, but because the difference is just around a couple of frames, it's not really a big deal. The problem is not even the data crunch. The problem is some games are just the way they use bandwidth, the way they load textures, the way they calculate lighting is different. Different engines use different variants. So now we're going to do our magic trick, which is start using DLSS and all that technology that is going to be useful for us. So we're going to put DLAA, DLSS, frame gen to on, reflex latency. So everything else is the same. And we are at 137. No, that's wrong. 103. So you should be averaging around 90. We are showing 98. Again, this is a relatively high area. So you should get around 90, because if you're getting 90 here, you know, it's pretty good. So if you can leverage the tech that NVIDIA gives you with FrameGen and DLSS, you can have a good experience with an eGPU. And this dock is very portable. It's small. It weighs around 1.5 kilograms, so you can pack it in a suitcase. And if you have a 4070 Super, you should be good to go. So it's a very neat pack to travel with. You can even get one of those smaller eGPUs from Morphine, which has a 4090M. But yeah, if you can leverage the tech, it's really good. Of course, you can get a lot more frames if you cut down some of the graphics, that's that with regard to this. So let me give you a close-up look about this device. So the Aostar as a package is very, very cool. I think the entire setup of how it's done is very simple, easy to use. You get your 3 pins, you just plug in your GPU, you have your power cable, and the cool thing is that it does supply power over the USB 4 cable. The Oculink port is pretty good if you really want it. I don't personally use it because the Oculink cables are tiny, but if you use an active Thunderbolt cable, you should be able to use a 6 feet active cable with no difference in performance. Do I recommend getting the Aostar? The reason I would recommend the Aostar is because this is something you can use on your handhelds or any other device, your tablet consoles, tablet PCs, my bad. But if you buy, and the other thing is it's upgradable. So this 5080 is actually going to go into a mini ITX PC. So I can use it on the Aostar, I can use it on my PC. So I'm not stuck with one GPU. And as GPUs get more powerful, they're definitely going to it's going to be a plus for the performance despite the bandwidth limitation. And also you get an Oculink port. So some people say that Thunderbolt 5 is going to be the next gen thing. Yes, it is going to be the next gen thing, but I highly doubt it's going to be that much better than an Oculink port. I mean, the only advantage you'd have is you can have a longer cable and play it in handheld mode. But otherwise, if you're just going to be nearby, you can have an Oculink cable, you can stream from your PC. So an Oculink port is definitely future proof. That's a great thing. The downside to the Aostar is that it doesn't have any ports. So some of my other eGPUs, they have a lot of ports. This unfortunately has only 2 ports, and for the price, I think it's around $240 or $219 at this time. I think I paid $300 with tax. Sorry, I paid $380 with tax and customs. So I don't think it's a bad proposition. I think it's a good way to use your other handhelds, your Onexflies and Rogue Ally X, which does work with this with slight driver updates. It's great to use with many GPUs, and when you're not using your GPU, you can just plug it into a mini ITX PC. If you buy something like the 1X GPU, which I do have, you're going to be stuck with that one piece. You can't upgrade that. You can't use that on, you know, your mini ITX PC. So it's kind of a trade. It's a trade-off, you know, depending on what you want. I really like it. I'm not going to be using it currently because I just built a tiny PC. So in the future, I will use it with the Legion Go 2, which is going to come out. So I might use it with that. So if you like the video, go ahead and like it. And thank you for watching.